statement this lunchtime. She says, "It has become apparent over the last few days, however, that there is a widespread perception, particularly among victim and survivor groups, that I am not the right person to chair the inquiry. It has also become clear to me that I did not sufficiently consider whether my background and the fact that my brother had been Attorney General would cause difficulties. Having listened to the concerns of victim and survivor groups and the criticisms of MPs and the media, I have come to the conclusion that I should not chair this inquiry."
So where now for the child abuse inquiry? Joining me now are the Chief Executive of the National Association of People Abused in Childhood, Peter Saunders, and also the Chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Keith Vaz, MP. Welcome to you both. First of all, on the Butler-Schoss decision, is it the right one, Peter Saunders?
Sadly, it absolutely is the right one. And I think that Dame Butler-Schoss has done the honourable thing in stepping down. It's the government here, I fear, that have got egg on their face, in the Home Office in particular. It was a very bad choice to head up a very, very important inquiry.
Keith Vaz, what do you think?
Well, I agree with that. I think there's no question of her integrity. She's clearly a judge of the highest integrity. As I said to Mark Sedwell when he appeared at the committee last week, they just gave us the name before he started his appearance. And of course the Home Secretary is before us today at 3 o'clock, so we've just had this resignation at 12. And I think that when you rush, and I think there is a tendency to rush on this whole process, is you tend to get a name without having looked at the consequences. And there is no doubt in my mind that the public would feel that having a member of the House of Lords, forget about all the other stuff, would not be right when so many at Westminster have talked about this inquiry, and indeed some names have been forthcoming. So what they need to do now, in my view, is they've now got two parallel inquiries, one without a head, one with two heads, which is the internal inquiry that was set up following the missing, or that showed us the missing 114 files. So really they should conclude that fairly swiftly, because it's a review of a review. And I think what the government ought to do, and what the Home Secretary ought to do, and I'll ask her to do it today, is to consult with others before she names the head of the inquiry, because this has gone a touch shambolic. It's not kind of efficient, it's not thought out and thought through. What it is making instant decisions in order to satisfy people. And what they ought to do is to go slowly, choose carefully, because this inquiry is going to last a long time.
Let's put that point to Peter Saunders. Baroness Butler-Schoss said she'd listened to victim and survivor groups. Is that something that the government should perhaps have done before announcing the appointment?
I think she's absolutely right, and I agree completely with Keith that she is a woman of huge integrity. It isn't about that. Although I would also mention that her reference to obscuring or leaving out the name of a bishop in a recent inquiry that she undertook on behalf of Chichester Diocese, I think does also indicate that perhaps she is a little bit too much a part of the establishment to be undertaking an investigation into the very establishment that we have huge problems with. But in terms of who we are going to, who the government is going to appoint for, as a successor to Dame Elizabeth, I think they need to give it very careful consideration. I think they could do a lot worse than asking survivors and survivor organisations what they think, because it is very important we get someone who is impartial and has the respect.
Who is the right person to do the job? Because we've got Parliament involved. Keith Vaz says not a member of the House of Lords. We've got the BBC involved. We've got the NHS involved. We've got the church involved. Yes. I mean, all those
and these are all
connected to the establishment. Exactly. I mean, who can invest? I mean, maybe we need a foreigner. Maybe we need a prosecutor from, I don't know, Germany or America.
What we don't need is the manager of the German football team. Or someone like that. What we need...
Why not?
Well, because...
I mean, you yourself in the past have said... you know, we should be cautious about these allegations, you know, and a lot of people say, well, he's a typical MP. Actually, they want to put the lid on it.
Well, we don't need to look abroad. There are plenty of people who can do this inquiry here. I think the issue for us is the government should consult. They've suggested a panel, so the panel will include a number of people. But as the Prime Minister did over Levinson, he actually talked to the chairs of the select committees and to the Leader of the Opposition and to Nick Clegg, and then they came up with a name that was acceptable to people. And I think if we're going to be careful and strong and detailed, we need to be able to consult groups like Peter's and others, I'm not suggesting Peter should do it, but people,
perhaps he's got the answer.
People who are able to work with that. But I think that it is important that you need to get a broad brush as far as the panel is.
It's easy to spot who the politician is. I mean, whoever is appointed won't please all the people all the time, and I don't know why a person like Michael Mansfield comes into my mind, but I think somebody of the stature of somebody who knows the law, but also hasn't been tainted in the way that Butler Schloss was tainted with the episodes that I just mentioned.
Take Michael Mansfield, for example. He's a highly respected lawyer, but he has consistently criticised the government and the establishment.
I don't think we should choose names here, but I think what Peter was talking about, the type of person who we could accept. I mean, there's no reason why someone like him should not sit on the panel, but I think that the government should be very careful. The Home Secretary is coming before the committee at 3 o'clock today. We will want to know why this decision was made. I'm giving her advance notice of her question. Why the decision was made so rapidly, and could she please consult before the next stage?
Arguably, because there was a hue and cry which you and others were contributing to.
Yeah, well, we don't need to rush every time there's a hue and cry. We can actually have a process, because this is about real victims.
It absolutely
and you know, people that you know about, and it's been going on now. Some of this has gone back 30 to 40 years. It doesn't have to be done tomorrow. If we have the process, and we agree the process, we can choose the personnel. We do have distinguished people, maybe yourself, who could be sitting on that.
We will have to, look, we're going to have to leave it there, but we will certainly be listening out for the hearing of the committee with the Home Secretary this afternoon. Now let's move on to that news now that the Prime Minister is pledging to spend more than £1 billion